Welcome to Streetlight Angels Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm one of two hosts. I got Casey here with me. Case, what episode are we on?
Episode 8.
Episode 8, our second one for the year, actually, in 2025. It's been a pretty crazy year. I feel like January just never ends.
I feel like January's trying to kick my butt right now.
Somebody said we're on like January 39th right now or something. That's what it feels like.
That.
So
it's dragging.
that being said, we're going to kick off the second episode with our second guest. We have Ariel here with us.
Hey.
Hi,
I'm
welcome.
Here. Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, awesome. Tell us a little bit about you, Ariel, and what you do.
Well, where to begin? There's so much.
Sure, that's a good thing.
Do we want to know all the things? I don't know.
Just want to know all the things.
All the things. How much time do you have?
Juicy. Yeah, go for it.
So just the basics. My husband and I live here in Crestview. We own a business, DryerVents Squad. We clean DryerVents. It's a very niche business, and we've got 3 kiddos. We're just entering the teenage life right now, so pray for us.
Nice.
You'll make it.
Yeah. So we're in Crestview because we moved here from Dallas. And it was just getting a little bit too, what's the right word for Dallas? Crowded and dangerous and just not feeling safe. So we were looking for like a small town vibe, somewhere we could raise the kids in a little bit slower paced environment and somewhere we could start a business and thrive. And we ended up in Crestview and we love it here.
I feel like it's the perfect city for that.
It's been awesome. Like, I know a lot of people hate on Crestview, but we just love it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was meant to be.
From Dallas to the village of Crestview.
Crestview.
Yeah, I call this place a village.
It's
the
this-
village.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
village family.
Like, big change.
That's huge. It changes everything.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. It
Oh
was
my
a
gosh,
wild change.
it's a little bit different here. It's strange for sure.
Good different.
What's the name of your company again?
It's DryerVents Squad.
DryerVents Squad.
Yeah.
So you clean
DryerVents.
that.
That is what we do.
Super
it's like
cool.
very niche.
That's wild. I didn't even know that.
And it's
honestly,
needed.
this is the first.
Yeah.
It's definitely needed.
I've never heard of this ever. That's super cool.
I didn't
So
even
maybe
know
you
it
could be a
needed to be
customer.
done.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I bet. What does it do? Like prevent fires? I'm sure. And
We prevent fires, and really it just makes your dryer more efficient. Your vent gets so clogged, like you clean out the lint portion of your dryer every time you do a load, right? And there's a ton of lint.
Sure.
Like there's more than that in your dryer vent, and eventually your clothes take like 3-4 cycles to dry, and then you clean out your vent, and it's drying in one cycle.
really.
Like who knew? But
It's got to be more cost efficient too, especially on the energy bill, and then maybe saving the life of your dryer.
yeah.
Not to mention the fire.
Yeah, a lot of
Hazard
house fires
prevention.
are started from the dryer.
Sure.
Like lint, I don't know if you've ever thrown lint into a fire, but it's like a little bomb went off. And so if you can imagine one little spark in your houses.
That's
Like-
usually my go-to when we do our fire pit.
Yeah.
When I have nothing else to help me start my...
Some like lint kindling.
Absolutely. If you
Yeah.
take the lint from your dryer
yeah.
and put that in there, it
Yeah.
sets everything off.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
How long ago did you start this?
So we've been in business for about 3 years.
3
Yeah,
years.
we're just coming up on 3 now.
Okay.
So
Wow. And you have a website, I'm assuming.
we
then?
do.
What's the website?
The website it'll be DryerVentsSquad.com/Emerald Coast.
Perfect.
Emerald
Yeah.
Coast. And you do the whole panhandle, or are you just kind of
Pretty
local
much, yeah. So from Pensacola all the way to like Panama City.
to? Okay.
So,
That's amazing.
Okay.
yeah, we're all over.
Good stuff. And is that his full-time job, your husband's?
To both of our full-time jobs.
Really?
It is.
That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah, so he's out working on DryerVents all day long, and I'm in the office doing all the other things.
Nice. Okay,
That
cool.
it takes to run
The
a business.
clerical side and
Yes,
everything. He's the
yeah.
one pushing. Awesome.
Answering all the calls. So if you call, you'll get me on the phone.
Nice. All right.
Amazing.
That's interesting, honestly. My neighborhood had that vent cleaning for ACs
Yeah.
not too long ago. And the neighborhood, it was kind of like
Yeah.
a kind of a group deal, right, for the neighborhood. And then they came and they cleaned it, which they did, what they were supposed to do for the price that we had expected. But then they added all these extras that they were trying to quote us on. And it ended up being like $2,000 of a quote. And I said, you guys are crazy. Because I was only trying to get my vents clean for $200, and then now you're
Yeah.
throwing a $2,000 price tag at me.
Ouch.
So I can't imagine that cleaning a dryer vent would be anything like that.
No, actually, our pricing's pretty easy. It's $169 to $199 depending on the length and direction of your vent.
Okay.
And
That's not bad at all.
it's not bad. We take about an hour to an hour and a half. So a lot of AC companies will add on like a dryer vent cleaning for $49,
Sure.
but they're not actually cleaning your vent. We try to tell people they're not cleaning your vent, right? Like they might be hooking up a blower to your vent or something. Like we're actually cleaning the extent of your lip.
Wow. Okay.
From beginning to end. You do inside the dryer, all of that. So it's really a niche thing.
Yes,
Like
it is.
Well, I think it needs to be educated some more.
Yes.
So hopefully this this episode brings out a little bit of awareness on that, because I'm ignorant. I don't think I've ever cleaned a dryer vent in my life, honestly. So
And now you've got all the spring cleaning coming up. So it's the perfect time to start to really market that and educate people.
plus that like back air probably puts those germs back into the house, and people are constantly getting sick in their houses.
We're not going to talk about that.
I see eyes.
Any kind of cleanliness might help a lot of people. Oh yeah.
Wait,
Yep, I learned it. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
now.
I love how everybody got quiet when I pushed the button, so we could hear that. That's funny.
We were anticipating it.
All right, so that's awesome, Ariel, and we appreciate that. I'm gonna have to check you out. What's the website one more time?
The website is DryerVentsSquad.com/Emerald Coast.
Okay, all right. So /Emerald Coast, good deal. And I'm sure we can find you on social media and stuff like that,
anything.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
good
on
deal.
all of it.
All right, awesome. And so, you're doing this type of company, which is essentially helping the people. I mean, if a fire happens because of a spark of some lint in a dryer in one house, it's definitely going to affect the other houses in the neighborhood, probably.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? You've got HOAs that are probably constantly digging into, better ways to make sure that the neighborhood stays safe and things like that. So, do you have an HOA?
We do have an HOA.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah, we intentionally purchased in an HOA just to protect our property value and the safety of the community.
HOAs are crazy. Like, I know I pay a pretty penny for my HOA, and I don't really, honestly, out of the amount of houses we have in the neighborhood, and if they're paying the exact same price I am, which I'm sure they are, I'm constantly trying to figure and rack my brain as to where this money's going. And they're never transparent as far as letting us actually see the transactions that are being made throughout the year, which, I've got a meeting coming up soon. I'm going to shed light on that and say, I want to see where that money's going. Do you guys have that same problem?
We do. I mean, we can get the financials because legally they do have to share with you because the HOA is an association of everybody in the community. So you may have a president, a vice president, but the HOA is all of the homeowners. Together.
Absolutely.
You're all a part of it. And so you all have money into it and you all have say over where those funds go.
I got it. My parents hate HOAs with a passion. They will look for neighborhoods when they move from one place to another and try to find one that does not have an HOA or is not intrusive. Yeah. You know what I mean? But in the same token, you kind of got to appreciate them if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like my neighborhood does, as far as keeping everybody clean, does yours guys, you guys have
I would say
a decent name?
A struggle in our neighborhood.
Is it?
Yeah, we've struggled with our HOA.
I feel like
what do you mean struggle? Like, what do you mean? Like, what's problems?
So the problems that we're seeing are, we've got our bylaws. Every HOA has bylaws, and you need to keep your grass cut. You need to have a fence. You need to,
don't park in the front yard. Don't put your cars on cinder blocks.
No trash in the front yard.
Sure.
And so we've just seen all of those things done in our HOA community. Those things are happening, and they're not being fixed.
Nobody's being held accountable?
Nobody's being held accountable. Huh.
Some families are being held accountable where others are not. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't feel like it's very, I feel like it's very, there's no clear cut black and white rules for everyone. It's, this family may have.
Well, that's where the bylaws come in. You should be able to look at that black and white, right? And then be able to essentially put a copy of that with a highlighted section into their mailbox and say, fix, or, repercussions are going to be happening. You know what I mean? That's how it should be, right?
Yes, that's how it should be. And very recently, our HOA is kind of trying to get it together, and they're just now sending out some fine letters and highlighting the bylaws for people. And so I'm hoping to see some change here soon. But up until this point, it's been about 3 years.
Sure.
It's been, I would say, a hot mess.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I remember my neighbor had a boat parked out front for a little while, and the HOA came in strong. Like, you better get, because you get, 24 hours is the max you can get for having anything other than your own cars in the front.
I think ours is something similar to that.
Yeah. And he had it there for a couple of days. They were lenient, and then everybody came in strong. We got our own Facebook, HOA Facebook group. So a lot of people are calling each other out. Right. We're kind of taking care of each other, you know what I mean, in a sense to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to call you out on this, but I do know who you are because we all got rings or we got something. Yes. So don't make me put your face on this group chat, you know what I mean? That type thing. Because you will, you know? And rightfully so. Like, if I'm walking my dog and they crap in your yard, like, I already feel guilty. I'm already looking at my dog like, damn it, like, get not this yard, you know what I mean? Like,
could you have done that?
Exactly. But they do. And so you take care of it as a respectable human being in society.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, and it's like, it's almost like trying to police a bunch of children.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like
sad. It's sad.
Some adults that,
One of the things I struggle with the HOA or people in our community that are not following rules is when you purchase a home, like, the bylaws are there for you. Let's read them and see, are we okay with not having a trailer in our front yard? Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
And if you're not, don't buy the house.
Right.
So these people are kicking and screaming like, I didn't read them, so I don't know. Well, that's your fault. Because I read it probably 20 times before. I was like, can I follow these? Yeah, I can. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's difficult because there are some things on there that I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, how dare them tell me I got to pay for one of these guys to come in and, give me permission to put a shed in the backyard type stuff.
Absolutely.
That bothers me with a passion because I'm the one paying my rent. I'm the one paying all this stuff, including their HOA, but then now I got to pay them extra for them to come and inspect and make sure I meet whatever requirement they think I need to meet. Like, that's the
'cause it's your property,
weight and balance. So, exactly.
Yeah. It is. But on the flip side of that, your idea of the proper shed might not be your neighbor's idea of a proper shed. So
exactly.
That's where we have to understand that everything's not so clear cut with everybody's mentality and processing, because where you may pay thousands of dollars for a nice shed that's going to be enclosed and look good, your neighbor might try to put up some 2x4s and and some metal tin or something that's going to look like garbage. And then it just it looks trashy. It's not uniform and it looks trashy in the neighborhood. So
and then it depreciates the value of the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And people trying to sell houses.
That
right?
out.
Yes.
That's what's happening in your neighborhood. Nobody can sell or buy houses.
Houses are not moving. People are trying to maybe rent them just to mediate that a little bit because they cannot sell.
They can't sell. One has gone into foreclosure. Two have gone into foreclosure. We've got one that we've had anywhere from 5 to 8 houses for sale that have just sat.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing.
For a very long time.
Yes.
That's new.
And we have wonderful people in the neighborhood.
We really do. We have a great neighborhood.
We have beautiful homes.
Yes.
They're all new. No homes are over the older side of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But in our area, no house is over 4 years old yet.
So it's all brand new houses and they're
all
already
brand new homes
becoming foreclosures and things like that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
And I think part of the reason for that is when you go to buy a house, like, what do? You research the neighborhood, right?
Sure.
And so maybe you take a drive if you can.
We talked about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you drive around my neighborhood, there are some houses that you might think, ooh, I think maybe unsafe people live there.
Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Some like meth heads and...
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Ew, that's gross.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And it kind of makes you, I don't know. I remember back in the day, I don't think there was ever this issue or this weird feeling about who lives where because we monitor ourselves even without an HOA.
Right.
Which brings up, how well do you know your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Well, and with that too, Ariel and I were just talking a day or two ago that normally you'll case out a neighborhood, but when a neighborhood is brand new, there's nothing to drive around. You don't see all these families. Everyone's buying at the same time. So you have all these different personalities and ways of life, and which we welcome different various cultures and groups and all the things. Like, we love diversity. Yeah. But when you get such diversity with morals and values and life compasses, it's hard to coexist.
It is.
It's very hard to coexist. Which
is why an HOA is important.
Because
it kind of just outlines we all agree that this is how we're going to live, at least on the outside.
Yes.
And whatever you do inside of your home is your business, but on the outside, let's keep it
neutral. A village. Let's keep it
a
happy village.
Yeah.
I heard a saying yesterday, which I haven't heard in a long time. It takes a village to raise a child.
It does.
You know what I mean? And so we've lost that. That's long gone. Yeah. Here in these days.
I don't know. Some of us have it.
I have a village.
I have my village too. Ariel's part of my village.
How well do you know your neighbors?
Well, I know Ariel.
Yeah. Sure. In the whole neighborhood.
That's going to take us even more to an interesting topic in just a second. But my village they're not my neighbors. They're my friends in my community. So I've created, my village is like a jellyfish.
Yeah.
I have long reaches in the community where I have different people that I know. Like right now, if we weren't doing this podcast, I've called you for an emergency before.
Yeah.
And said, oh my gosh, this is happening. Can you help me? And you're at my house within minutes.
Yeah. And I've done the same to you.
Yeah. And that is awesome to have, onesie twosies. But I feel like when I was a kid, it was everybody in the neighborhood looked out for each other.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's definitely different. Yeah.
I don't have that.
I didn't
Not
have
even
that
close
even as a
right
kid,
now.
though.
You've never had that as a kid?
So I didn't have neighbors.
Oh.
We lived
yeah.
we lived on land and there was no one.
So then that would obviously that's a little different.
Yes.
But when it comes to neighborhoods itself or even apartment complexes and stuff like that, like people just knew each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't vindictive. It was we knew each other because we knew we needed to talk to each other about certain situations. We would need to rely on each other and stuff like that. But I feel like that's gone. You maybe have one or two.
Yes.
But it's gone.
One or two.
One or two.
And my kids definitely have if there's an emergency, go to this house, or this house, but nobody else.
Sure.
Right.
Do you have anybody you're like, look at, you're driving through the neighborhood, you got anybody you're like, oh man, I wish we could have like a screening process before we allowed people to move into our own neighborhood.
Across the street.
Really? You got some across.
I have a front row seat
to some weirdos?
Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in our neighborhood, we've had owners move out that cannot sell their houses.
Yeah.
And across the street, they were not able to sell their house. And now we have a squatter situation.
Really?
Yeah.
That should be illegal, though.
Yeah.
And with an HOA, it should be taken care of.
Yeah.
Really?
You would think so.
Yeah. So interesting thing about this house is we moved in 3 years ago. And when we pulled up after signing the papers, we're so excited. We looked at the house across the street and we were like, why do they have a couch on their front porch? We're in an HOA community. That's not allowed.
Right.
They'll take care of it. No worries.
Sure.
So the couch stayed. My kids lovingly call this place the couch house.
No way. It's still there?
So very recently it was removed.
Oh my gosh.
But it was replaced with many other things. Mattresses.
No way.
Cribs, beds.
No way.
Trash. So we've struggled for 3 years with this house. And the biggest issue I have with this house is that in our bylaws, in our HOA bylaws, you are not allowed to rent out individual rooms in your home.
But no subleasing.
They have always done this.
And they're doing that in the house there?
Yeah. Well, no. They're not.
Well, now
they're not subleasing. They're definitely squatting for free now.
The squatters came from subleasing, though. They all had a room in the house. We've had people
So
in
who
and
owns
out
the house?
Constantly. The person that owns the house doesn't live in the States anymore.
So they're renting the house?
No, he just let it go into foreclosure.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. What the heck? That's crazy.
Yeah.
With that, if they're not renting, who takes care of the power, the electricity? Who has the rights to do all that?
They don't have power.
Okay.
They
way.
They don't have water. No.
So how are we taking care of natural, human, basic things? How's that?
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
And, I try to love my neighbors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we should all love our neighbors. And I try really hard to just be friendly and loving towards them because that's what I want to be. And they do ask for water. They ask for things from people around us. And if it's a basic human need, I will provide. But I can't help but wonder, is this right? Because you're stealing.
Are you...
You're stealing shelter.
Would you think that in any way that's enabling them?
Yes, I do. And I battle with that.
That's hard.
What's the right thing to do?
That's right.
Because they have children in that house. They have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. And they don't have water.
And electricity. And it just snowed here not too long ago. They must have been freezing.
Yes.
Holy cow. Probably building like little miniature fires inside this house. And this house is only 4 years old?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, see, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
You know what I mean? It's a huge problem.
Like, what do I do? I would love an answer to what do we do, because I have called and asked for help from many different places. And
I know there's people listening to our podcast that could easily pipe in and say, hey, this is exactly what you need to do. So if you are one of the listeners that know have ever dealt with this, go ahead in the links or in the comments and let us know so we can help Ariel out with the situation, you know?
So this is going to take a little bit of a turn. Yeah. And I know you've had some interesting stuff come up with this, and you had, I think if I remember correctly, you had an unexpected knock on your door concerning this. Are you comfortable with talking about that?
Yeah, I can't share. They've asked me not to share too much.
Okay.
But I can share some of it.
Okay.
So these people coming in and out of this house, we never know who they are, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, we got a small view into what's actually going on in that house. And we had a sheriff knock on our door and say, have you seen this man? They show us a photo, and, yeah, we've seen him. He comes in and out. And
this is one of the tenants that's squatting in this house.
Yeah, and he's not always there. It's just kind of a in and out when needs be, I guess. I don't really know the situation, but we do know him or know of him. We see him. And she let us know that he was wanted for inappropriate behavior with a teenage girl.
Okay.
In another state. And so we kind of like, are my kids safe? And no, they're not.
No.
Is the answer. No, they're not.
No kids are safe now.
No. But unfortunately, this is not the first time something like this has happened. So a couple years ago, the people in there were being charged with trafficking. And at one point, my daughter was walking across the street to her friend's house, and I normally watch her walk. Like, I've never felt safe letting my kids walk to the neighbors.
Right.
So she went out ahead of me, and I was like, I'll be out in a second to watch you the rest of the way. And she ran back in and said, Mom, these people are trying to get me in a car.
No way.
Yes, they're trying to get me and my friend into a car. And so I called the police, like, please help me. And we gave them a description of the vehicle, of the people inside, everything. And they said, what do you want me to do? And I said, I don't know. Like, what do we do?
Why are they asking you what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah. Then I said, can you make a report or something? Like, something's going to happen at some point. I want documentation. And they said, we don't really do that. And my thought is, like, as soon as something does happen, as soon as my kid is stolen, you're going to do something then.
So instead of being reactive, why don't we be proactive?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
And this is obviously one of those situations that's going to be a reactive situation. Yeah. Something bad's going to happen. They're going to be like, oh, crap. Yeah. Meanwhile, look at all these triggers. Yes. And all these like things that are popping up that just are flags that are just shoving in our face, and yet nothing's being done, right?
Well, and interestingly enough, that happened with my children. We just talked about, I think we talked about this the other day, where I had an SUV that cased my house for 2 weeks. My autistic daughter noticed the vehicle, knew that the vehicle did not live in our subdivision, and was trying to tell me in her own way that somebody was watching her and even recording them. And then the day that they tried to go into my house, my neighbors saw, screamed. Yeah. Thank goodness. Oh my God, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
And the people ran and got back in the car and left really quickly. We called the police as well. And they wanted to pretend like they were solar panel people. And it's like, and the cop literally looked at me and said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, did you investigate that they're actual employees? Because I already have solar panels.
Right.
And my neighbors don't. So the fact that the people ran was ridiculous to me. Does that not give you a red flag as an officer of the law?
Like automatically guilty.
No, I didn't have any reason to question them further. What do you want me to do? And I was like, I don't know your job.
Then I would say something like, okay, well then I need a statement from you as a police officer stating that you're not following this any further.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's scary.
It is.
And I think again we need to hold them accountable just as maybe. But again, I want documentation saying that they can't do anything.
Well, as a parent, it creates so much anxiety because we've not only had one house in the neighborhood known for trafficking, there were 2. And so they're gone now.
Thank goodness.
But
down.
It is scary.
Yeah.
It is so scary.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, my anxiety, I'm like, okay, well, I track their phones, but what happens if they were to drop their phone?
Yeah.
Should I put an air tag in every shoe? What do you do?
Yeah. I've actually thought about that. I've thought about sewing like an air tag into my kids' shoes.
We have them.
My kids have air tags.
We did.
Did you sew them into their shoes?
Not into the shoes, but I have them someplace. I'm not going to say where they're at.
Maybe we can drop that off.
But but Larissa would kill me if I said where we located these.
No,
but
I would
my
like
boys,
to know.
and they know about it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they know to hold those things dear to them if something happens. And so, but how sad is that to where we even got to think about that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's scary.
It's horrible. But the awareness, the educational piece to the children is pinnacle.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We can as parents, have anxiety attacks about it or do what we need to do as an adult. But ultimately, the children need to have that educational piece to where they know what to do as much as us. So in your case, I'm sure you've told your kids like scream, hoot, holler. I don't care what you do. Throw rocks.
Yeah.
Do whatever you got to do to get to wherever you need to go that's in a safe place again.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to rely on our neighbor. Unfortunately, your neighbors are the problem. You know what I mean? Which is disgusting to me because I don't know how I've never had myself in a situation to where it's been personal to me on that scope.
Yeah.
But if it was, I feel like I'd probably be sitting in jail already for doing something that I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Just because of the things that aren't currently being done by the authorities.
Right.
Right. And so if we can hold the authorities accountable to hold those neighbors or this squat house essentially accountable, then it's going to be what it's supposed to be, how our neighborhood's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, and with that too, you would think that we've also spoken about this. You guys have thought about selling your house. I've thought about selling my house because of the issues there. The good people will either fight to weed out the bad, or the good people will leave and the bad will overtake.
And that's essentially flicking the booger.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then
love that.
Someone else has to deal with that. You know what I mean? And it could be the next family that comes in from overseas that has to buy a house sight unseen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they buy the house, they move in, and now their child got,
right.
assaulted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
And that's what I feel like the HOA needs to take into HOA and the
law.
The law.
Yeah.
Law enforcement needs to take into accountability. They do. Which we know that there are laws in place. And I know that we've talked about they can't go in the house. And there are certain laws that they do have to follow because...
For a reason.
Because we're not... This has to be an equal balance justice system across the board. Yeah. So if they can't go into that house, that means they can't just walk into mine or your house. Right. So there are gray areas where I feel like we should have some shading where we could get somewhere. So
yeah.
And you do. It's just we got to educate ourselves, some more on it. What do you tell your family? What do you tell your kids? What do you tell your girls? You know what I mean?
I have spent way too much time educating them, and sometimes I wonder, like, am I creating anxiety for them? And I kind of am in a way, which breaks my heart, but I also can't, as a mom, not protect them with information.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we have the conversation of if somebody were to take you, you kick, you scream, you don't stop. Right. Because at some point, they don't want to deal with you. You make it so they don't want to deal with you. But there is I'll have to try and find the YouTube video for you, but they interview inmates and ask them what they looked for in their victims.
I've never thought about that.
It's very interesting. But one of the big things was they will not take a child if the parent can ID them. So I intentionally meet everybody that comes into that house. I make eye contact with them. Mm-hmm. And I try to do it in loving ways. I try to bring them water, give them something.
Okay.
I'm not here to judge everybody's life and how they got there. I don't know why they're there, but I will make sure I can see your eyes. Absolutely. And I ID you. Yeah. And I feel like in a way that protects them, but I tell the kids, like, you need to make eye contact too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You need to make sure that they know that you can ID them. And that makes them much less appealing. The other thing is, if they're alone a lot, that's very appealing to a criminal.
Sure.
So my kids are not allowed to be outside by themselves.
See?
Same.
Buddy system.
And that's our biggest problem.
Yeah.
The Streetlight Angels podcast is built around why we can't let our kids go outside and play until the streetlights come on.
Yeah.
Without us being up their butts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, worrying
Tracking
about them
them.
constantly
Yes.
or tracking them or.
Well, and to piggyback off of what you just said too, because I am a single parent and I can't pull into my garage. So when I'm home and when I'm not. My vehicle is either there or it's not.
Yes.
So I will have people and friends move their car into my driveway. And I'll let people use my driveway and park there to give it the illusion. Yeah. And you don't know when I have a friend visiting. Yeah. You don't know when somebody's just parked in my driveway. You don't know if I've let somebody borrow my car. I've learned, and the educational piece that I've realized is to not keep a consistent schedule. Yeah. To change things up so that you don't look so predictable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, they say that all the time, change directions, They teach us that in the military, what I mean? Never have the same, mundane route.
Thankfully with kids, that's fairly easy.
Thank God.
Yeah. But unfortunately, to have your child or anybody's child or your children or even mine to know that I won't let them go outside unless I'm with them or unless their mom's with them is growing them into a fearful, it's the nature versus nurture type thing. Yeah. So the nature of it is they're growing now into a fearful environment.
They are.
And they're literally building the foundation of them as children into fear. Yeah. And I hate that with a passion. I can't stand it. That's why we started this podcast to bring in shed light to that. The subject obviously is a little harder. I need the commenters to get in there and talk about, their issues and if they had issues in the past that have been resolved, how they got to those points and things like that to help better educate ourselves on what to do, what we can do, what our options are. That's the hardest part is like, am I allowed to go over there and, bring my pistol and say, you ever look at my kid again, I'm going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're going to have problems essentially. Or, if I call the cops, they're going to say, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Like how do we get to the end point where we actually have the solution preemptively? Yeah. Not a proactive, oh, now my kid's dead. Are you guys going to come do something? Right. We don't want that crap. That's what this podcast is about. A huge reason as to why we, have these guest speakers and we talk about these very versatile and sometimes dark subjects is so that we can bring awareness and start getting the answers that we need and the traction. Absolutely. To get things done, right?
Yeah. Well, it gives an outreach. Right. It gives a bigger outreach and gives us a larger voice because I feel like the squeaky wheel.
So HOA do their jobs. They need to do their jobs. Yes. Neighbors, start getting to know your neighbors. Yeah. Learn them a lot better. If you're a podcast listener and you're listening to this, what is wrong with you hitting up your neighbor 5 houses down and that you've never seen and just be like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just start building those relationships again. That's what we need to do. Yeah. So that, we can let our kids go out. And then it should shed awareness on who the neighbor is to where they're not supposed to be there. Or this is not a neighbor, should be taken lightly, that kind of thing. So there's awesome apps out there that talk about pieces of crap that have been pieces of crap in the past, but have gone through the judicial system and now back into the street, which they may have, been absolutely wonderful now, and they may be the best people in the entire world. However, once labeled, you always are. It's something that needs to be need to be aware of. And there's apps out there that tell us you have a couple apps, right?
Yes, I have them pulled up right now actually, and those people that do have those specific labels, they will, to my knowledge, forever have rules that they still have to follow.
Yeah, forever.
So,
forever, yeah.
So, they're very
sex offenders,
well aware.
Traffickers, anything that has to do with that stuff. But there's apps out there that kind of help you, right?
So the top 5 that I have pulled up are Family Watchdog, Home Facts, Offender Radar, City Protect, and Spot Crime. Mm-hmm. But it also goes over, you can look up, even locally in your area, National Sex Offender Registry. State and local law enforcement should be able to educate people as well.
Should be able to.
Call your local law enforcement and just inquire about the area, the community, the neighborhood, the people. And then there are community alerts out there. So Facebook groups, just getting yourself networked into those places to educate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Utilize the resource, right?
Yes.
Utilize them. And then also hold the resources accountable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, because clearly, like I said, it's reactive. I don't want to deal with it unless unless it's already happened. And then they're like, crap, I probably could have done something. And then, oh my gosh, what a snowball effect, right?
Well, we're not trying to ruin anybody's life either. We're not trying to educate so that people are called out in communities, especially people that have changed their lives, that are trying to try to be on that straight and narrow and do better for themselves. Right. What we're trying to do is just educate our families so that our kids are safer.
Yeah, that's right. So we can protect them. And for these people that are struggling, squatters particularly, there are programs in our community to help them.
Yes, there are.
So my question to them is, why are you not utilizing the programs? Mm-hmm. You know, like you could be in a better situation. You could have water. You could have electric.
Yes.
Like, why don't you have that?
Well,
and how can we help you?
Absolutely.
Because I will help you.
It's extremely unsanitary.
Yeah.
It's not just unsanitary for them. It's unsanitary for our community.
We need to fix this. We're going to do it. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're actually going to pull some stuff. I have some decent connections. I'll start making some phone calls. We're not going to allow this to happen any further. I promise you. I will do it now. Obviously what I can. And with the podcast itself, it should at least shed a lot more light on it to say, even if it's not just the neighborhood that you're living in, Ariel, or you're living in Case, there's other neighborhoods I'm sure that are out there that are just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
And they need to take care of that, or else we're never going to get to how we used to be with the children going outside and playing until the streetlights come on, right?
And this is going to be an outreach, and I want to thank you for opening up, and thank you for feeling comfortable enough to do this, because I know that this is
it's a little scary to share and speak publicly, but to be honest, after 3 years, I'm like, if we can just talk about it and get the ball rolling.
That's right.
Like, because I've just hit roadblock after roadblock,
That's right.
Here, and so let's try something different.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there.
That. Yeah.
It's the squeaky wheels going to get that grease, and we're going to squeak like a mother. You know what I mean? I promise. So don't even sweat it.
Yeah, I love it.
Ariel, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is Streetlight Angels Podcast. Casey, where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook, Streetlight Angels. Please open up, comment. We also have an email that you guys can hit us up at if you're wanting to be more anonymous. StreetlightAngelsPodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to help in any way that we can. We try to shed light on topics in the communities where we can keep our kids safer, and we are all about trying to pull together to create our villages.
Heck yeah. Let's get the family village back together how it used to be. We love you all, and we want everybody to be safe. Take care now.